Shalom and good morning. Hope you're all keeping well. Managing to keep sane in all this madness. It's been a while since my last video, I know. I don't know about you, but I've been struggling a little bit to get my head around this insanity. Things are not all that they'd have us to believe. They're not. But anyway, what we're going to look at this morning is, well, it's starting to happen again. Videos have been popping up over on YouTube and elsewhere, like they did back in 2017, certainly leading up to the Day of Trumpets in 2017, which was around about, well, the end of September. And before I tell you what it is, if you haven't already guessed, we're going to have a look at Matthew chapter 24. Okay, this is the go-to chapter for when people are starting to talk about the end times prophecy and what's going to be happening, what we can expect. This is the chapter they go to. These are the words of Yeshua, Jesus, to his disciples when they asked him, what can we expect to be happening? This chapter is in fact repeated pretty much word for word in Mark chapter 13, verses 24 to 27. Mark chapter 13 and Luke chapter 21. But Matthew 24 is the best known, so we're going to have a look at that. And I'm going to start at verse 4. And Yahushua, answering, said to them, "Take heed that no one leads you astray. For many shall come in my name, saying, I am Messiah, and they shall lead many astray." Well, very quickly, I just want to have a look at that one, those two verses, and particularly verse 5. For many shall come in my name, saying, I am the Messiah, and shall lead many astray. Now, you probably noticed in your English Bibles that there's inverted commas around the phrase, I am the Messiah, or I am the Christ. Now, it's interesting when you realise that in both Hebrew and Greek, there was no punctuation. There still isn't, really, I don't think. So, where did those inverted speech marks come from? Those inverted commas saying that it was a quote? Well, because they certainly weren't there in the Greek, and wouldn't have been there in the Hebrew. And we know that the Gospel of Matthew was originally written in Hebrew. So they weren't there in the originals. So where did they come from? Well, they must have been put in by the translators. They made an assumption. But here's something to think about. If the inverted commas weren't there in the original, it would have read something like this. For many shall come in my name, saying that I am the Messiah, and will lead many astray. Well, that's interesting, isn't it? Because in our current Bibles, the way it's currently written, it implies that many will come in his name, saying that they are the Messiah, and will lead many astray. So, I'm suggesting that with Yeshua saying, many will come in my name, saying that I am the Messiah, but will lead many astray, that could be referring to heretical church leaders. And we're certainly seeing those. Okay, anyway, moving quickly on. And For there shall be, for nation shall rise against nation, kingdom against kingdom, and there shall be scarcities of food and deadly diseases, and earthquakes in places. And all these are the beginning of birth pains. Then they shall deliver you up to affliction and kill you, and they shall be hated by all nations for my name's sake. And you shall be hated by all nations for my name's sake. Oh, and they shall deliver you up to affliction and kill you. Well, who is that? Or who has he just been talking about? What group of people has he just been talking about? Well, if you're following my suggestion, that would be heretical church leaders. And I'm suggesting that for the true believers, the first line of persecution is going to come from the traditional mainstream church. And mainstream church leaders, heretical church leaders, are going to turn us in to the authorities because we don't agree with them. Okay? Interesting thought. Something to think about. But I'm going to move very, very swiftly on because this isn't what I really wanted to talk about. And because of the increase in lawlessness, the love of many shall become cold. And I don't think that's lawlessness in the world. I think that's lawlessness within the body of believers, which will cause the love of believers to grow cold towards Yeshua and each other. Because it says, and because of the increase in lawlessness. And I'm going to suggest again here that the majority of mainstream Christian churches preach that the law, the Torah, God's instructions as to how he wants us to live and to worship him, is ignored. It's been we're told that it's been done away with. We no longer need to obey it. So you have to ask yourself, well, is the Father really pleased by that? Well, you know. Okay, moving again swiftly on. So when you see the abomination that lays waste, spoken of by Daniel the prophet, set up in the set-apart place, that's the temple, he who reads, let him understand. Interesting statement. And here I'm going to suggest something else, that everybody's looking to a third temple being built in Jerusalem on the Temple Mount, either alongside the Muslim Dome of the Rock or after it has been demolished. But anyway, the scriptures tell us that the Father will dwell in a temple no longer built by human hands, no longer made of brick and stone. So where does the Father live? Where does the Almighty live now? Well, he lives in the hearts of his people, doesn't he? We are the tabernacle of the Almighty. We are the temple in which he lives. So when you see the abomination that lays waste being set up in the Holy of Holies, the most sacred place, think about it. And woe to those who are pregnant and to those who are nursing children in those days, and pray that your flight does not take place in the winter or on the Sabbath, for there shall be great distress, often translated as tribulation, such as has not been since the beginning of the world until this time, no, nor ever shall be. And if those days were not shortened, no flesh would be saved. But for the sake of the chosen ones, those days shall be shortened. If anyone says to you, look, here is the Messiah, or there, do not believe them. False messiahs and false prophets shall arise, and they shall show great signs and wonders, so as to lead astray, if possible, even the elect. So the elect are still here, okay? See, I have forewarned you. So if they say to you, look, he is in the desert, do not go out. Look, he is in the inner rooms, do not believe. For as the lightning comes from the east and shines to the west, so shall the coming of the Son of Adam be. For wherever the dead body is, there the vultures shall be gathered together. And verse 29. And immediately after the distress of those days. When? Immediately after the distress or the tribulation of those days. The sun shall be darkened, and the moon shall not give its light, and the stars shall fall from the heaven, and the powers of the heavens shall be shaken. And then the sign of the Son of Adam shall appear in the heavens. And then all the tribes of the earth shall mourn, and they shall see the Son of Adam coming on the clouds of the heaven, with power and much esteem, or much glory. And he shall send his messengers with a great sound of a trumpet, and they shall gather together his chosen ones from the four winds, from one end of the heavens to the other, immediately after the tribulation of those days. And now I think you can probably guess what I'm talking about. Yet again, YouTube is filling up with prophecies about a coming rapture. It happened with the Revelation 12 sign. Oh, God showed me in a dream that we're going to be raptured on the 23rd of September. Yeah, well, that happened, didn't it? And it's starting to happen again. With the current events, the current world events, it's starting to happen. People are starting to have dreams of God telling them when the rapture is going to happen. This secret rapture that Yeshua, Jesus himself, said immediately after the tribulation of those days. When did he say? Immediately after the tribulation of those days. Come on, folks. Those of you who believe in a pre-tribulation rapture to secretly take you out of this world before things turn messy, take a look around at the state of the church right now, the state of the body. Now, when you look, anybody who's been onto online dating sites and read people's profiles, quite often they will give an outline of the sort of person they're looking for. Well, you see, Messiah has done that in our scriptures. It's called the latter part of the latter half of Proverbs chapter 31, where he outlines his wife of noble character, the wife that he desires. Now, if anybody can say that the body of believers matches up to the criteria that he has laid out as to the sort of wife he wants to marry, no, I'm sorry. The state we're in right now, he isn't interested. He's not coming for a people who fall so far short of his criteria laid out in Proverbs chapter 31. He isn't interested, folks. We need this time of tribulation to purify us. Then, perhaps we'll be ready for him. Ain't going to happen before. You can wish it as much as you like. But quite honestly, Yeshua isn't coming back for the dishevelled woman that we are right now. Not a chance. No way. Sorry to disillusion you. And I know that I'm going to get all sorts of comments. But what about this? What about, Lot's deliverance from Sodom? And there's going to be all sorts of twistings and dubious interpretations of scriptures thrown at me. I know that. But these are the words of Yeshua himself. And you can read him saying the same things in Mark chapter 13 verses 24 to 27 and Luke chapter 21 verse 27, where it just says, and then, meaning, and in an event following what's just happened, when he's been talking about the tribulation of those days. So you can't get away from it. Deuteronomy chapter 19 and verse 15 says, from the mouth of 2 or more witnesses a matter is established. And there you have it. 3 witnesses immediately after the tribulation of those days. I'm not going to say any more. There's nothing more to say. Prepare for troubling times, because you ain't going nowhere until after we've gone through it. All right, go home, read your Bibles, to quote Zachary Bauer. All right, shalom, keep safe.